Ed Rollins, who served in 3 presidential administrations, the chief political advisor to the House Republican leadership, the dean himself, and Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the New York Post. Michael Goodwin, both are Fox News contributors and great Americans.
Thank you.
Michael, let's start with you tonight. The president started a firestorm on social media with his discussions of a quote-unquote an agreement,
right.
As Senator Chuck Schumer styled it. I love the fact that Schumer is out pushing what happened in a meeting with the President of the United States before the President can even address the matter.
That's a shock, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Look, I think the next time the President's going to have dinner alone with Democrats, he better bring a food taster. Because I think that the end result of this, while I applaud the President for working with Democrats last week, I think this week it looks like he's rushing ahead of his skis and getting too far out there making a deal when his backtracking today on what exactly he agreed to, putting out several different statements through tweets and then his own comments, I'm not really sure what they did agree to at this point.
Well,
I'm not sure where it stands,
an agreement at all,
or where the wall stands, most importantly here.
What do you make of it, Ed?
What I make of it is, if you're going to have an agreement, you're going to sit down with the Democrats. What are you getting back in return? We've got a big tax bill coming up. We're struggling on a health care bill. Is Schumer going to give him the 1 or 2 or 5 votes that he needs to get the health care bill through? Is Mrs. Pelosi going to round up Democrats to support his tax bill? If not, he shouldn't even be discussing anything with them. My issue here, and you touched on it in the beginning statement, the White House staff. The big story today is Jared Kushner is having a big meeting with high-powered people to talk about how we basically get prisoners back into society again. That should not be at the White House. That should be at the Department of Labor. Cohen is meeting next week.
Justice Department.
Cohen is meeting next week with the UN, all the world leaders coming in here. He wants to meet with people interested in his environmental platform, which isn't the president's platform. The president ought to have his team basically out there scrounging, pushing, twisting arms to get this tax bill through. And if he doesn't do that, the rest of it doesn't matter.
Michael, following Ed's 2 points there, and I think they're absolutely correct. Following that, what is the chief of staff doing here? Why is he permitting Gary Cohn, Jared Kushner, to take on these initiatives as if the president weren't in Florida with the First Lady meeting with the victims of Hurricane Irma, assessing damage? It's an extraordinary, to me at least, departure from what normally would be happening in a White House.
Well, look, the events of the last 24 hours or so do speak to some kind of a breakdown or a train wreck that I can't make sense of. I actually have been saying recently that Trump, I thought, was doing really well. I thought Kelly had brought some unifying messaging to the White House. Things had been going pretty well. But the last 24 hours seemed like a reversal in a lot of ways. I mean, Ed's point about not getting anything, I mean, I think the kindest thing you can say is he wants to get DACA out of the way, wants to get everything out of the way for taxes. But if you're not going to make a good bargain, then you're just digging yourself, creating new problems down the road.
Well, the president surely, as Paul Ryan pointed out, knows that the negotiation will take place in part with the Republican leadership, whether it be the Speaker's office or the leader's office over in the Senate. All of that has to happen with the majority party.
Right.
So any declaration by Schumer is premature at best, even though the president and he may agree on which way the wind is blowing on the southern border. I don't know. But it's interesting that people are trying to drive a wedge between this president and the base right now. And those people are the Dems, the left wing, and, of course, Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and all of their great friends over at K Street, including the Chamber of Commerce and the Business Roundtable.
Well, he's going to change the town, and he's going to change the town by winning some victories here in the near future. I lived through the 86 immigration bill. We had promises from the Congress when they passed it that they were going to supply not a wall, but basically more border security. We let all the illegals in that wanted to be qualified, and we did nothing. We did nothing.
There is no guarantee that could be offered by Chuck Schumer,
right,
who is so wantonly bereft of integrity that I cannot imagine why anyone would trust such an ideological partisan to enter into a quote-unquote finite agreement,
right.
which he claimed.
Well, look, and I think we all agree that the wall is so central to the president's appeal and to his election that you take the wall out of all of this.
Is it symbolic with the base, or is it a manifest promise by this president, perceived as such by the base?
I think to the base, it's a manifest promise. I think to everybody else, it's symbolic. But to the base, it matters maybe more than anything else.
And I would argue more than symbolic. I would argue it is something we need to basically secure that border. That border we have had.
Yeah.
That's
the remarkable thing here is that this president, not only in terms of illegal immigration, but addressing that border, because it is where most of the majority of marijuana, methamphetamines, cocaine, and heroin.
Right.
It's where those drugs, the majority of them, come into this country. Yeah. And he is the only candidate of, 17 of them, and then in the general election, to deal with the issue of what drugs are doing to this country, illegal drugs and legal.
And I think the problem today is he has called into doubt his own commitment to it, at least through several cycles. And I think that's a major mistake.
It's a major mistake. It is also a mistake that it is not inexplicable. It is, people do not appreciate the strength of this president, because he is isolated in that White House from so many of the advisors with whom he's worked over 2 years in reaching, more than 2 years, in reaching the White House. But also, he is under assault day after day after day, not only by the national left-wing media, the establishment of this country that he ran against and understood that he would be at war with, but his own party in the persons of Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. If there is any way this president, the Republican Party, can get Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell out of those positions, the national interest will be well served and brighter days will await us all.
Well, the slogan has to be for every Republican running, build a wall, and then we'll talk about comprehensive immigration later.
Yeah, look, I think it's wall, wall, wall. If he gives up on the wall, he's gutted the movement.
Right.
Yeah, he's made no suggestion, certainly, that, to my knowledge, that he's given up on the wall. In fact, he talks about putting it later. Perhaps the talk should be about advancing the schedule.
Right.
Ed, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Michael, thank you, as always.